All right, we are live, and yes, you are seeing another video on my Barn on 1197 channel. This is Chris. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to try and make this one a shorter video. Not everybody likes the longer ones or has time to listen to it all. One thing I want to start by saying is the video I made yesterday, even though I haven't made a video in 8 months or more, YouTube was instantly there to flag the video as inappropriate. And I would love to see what I said in that video that was inappropriate, especially when I was talking about love, unity, and how we need to think of another way. So, in my opinion, it shows that I'm on the right path, and I wasn't as crazy as people assumed I was years ago when I was talking about this as early as 2011. So, thank you for people coming here. I hope you appreciate what I'm about to say. I would recommend recording it. And if you can, share it, because, well, if you think it's good enough, so this way it can get out there while YouTube is trying to hide it. Because as you can see with people here right now, they can try and hide it, but they can't hide it from everyone. And slowly but surely, the truth is getting out there, and it's nice to be inspired again. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the video yesterday. Now, of course, I won't mention the name or the situation. You guys pretty much know what's going on. I'm trying to do this so it makes it harder for YouTube to have justification to hide my video. But a couple of people were saying that a certain event that was going on right now that is causing some chaos around this United States of America corporation, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my video I did a couple years ago called The Truth About the United States Law and You, the extended version. But as you could see in the image before you, and I'm just going to keep the image up and everything because I don't want it to be about me. These days, people are more concerned about making YouTube videos and having Instagram photos and posting the best tweet instead of doing what's right. And we're being, well, not everybody, because I know a lot of people here aren't into that kind of stuff, and I applaud you for that. And to the people that do it, I can't say it's completely wrong, because you are free to do whatever you want. But when we focus so much on ourselves that we don't try and make the world a better place, we ultimately hurt ourselves or our family members in the long run. And I'll give you a prime example that has to do with the event that's going on in the situation of that one gentleman, and I'm not going to get into it. There are some people saying it's staged. Let's just say I can't confirm it, but I would not be shocked. But in the grand scheme of things, whether it was a legitimate situation that happened, or it is a staged event to cause separation, chaos, and destruction for more control and more laws to be set to have justification for removing more of our freedoms, there's something I want people to pay attention to that you may not think about. Because it seems quite interesting these days that while that event was happening, it was being recorded. Now, there were several POs, and I'm sure you know what that stands for. It's a 2-word. It has to do with coppers. And I'm not talking about the metal. I'm trying to be as very vague as possible so YouTube cannot flag the video. None of them did anything to stop it. So, if the situation was as bad as it was, and it seemed as bad as it looked, no one did anything. They didn't say stop. They didn't say ease up. They didn't pull them off. They allowed it to happen, which in itself is wrong right there. Now, let's just assume the situation was not staged, because like I said, it's irrelevant, because the situation, whether it was staged or not, does not matter because of the fact of how people will react to it. And we see what the reaction is, because even if there are people that certain multi-billionaire / trillionaires can fund, and you know who I'm referring to if you've been studying this stuff for a while, there will still be the average person out there that will join in for whatever reason. So even if it starts out 100% phony, and I'm not going to say it is, you can make up your own mind, because again, to me it's irrelevant. But even if it was 100% staged, there will be people who will react to it that had nothing to do with it, as you could see what's going on. So the whole intent of how it happened is irrelevant, because it's what occurs afterwards is what direction we're going to go. So let's assume now on the other end of the spectrum, because I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna play both sides. Let's say that situation was 100% legitimate. Everything happened as a random event in the world. Nothing was staged. And again, I don't know either way. I don't care, because to me it's irrelevant. The police officers, and I said the word, I'm sure I'll be flagged, but they didn't do anything. So they stood around. They were complicit. So that, to me, if you're any lawyer or know anything about law, that would be accessory to murder, because they did not stop what was happening. So if the one person's going to be charged with murder and the other cops were standing around, which, by the way, were not all Caucasian, so that doesn't fit the narrative for them all too well. That's why they don't really talk about the other, well, I guess I might as well just say it at this point, officers, because it doesn't fit their narrative. But here's the part that bothers me. What concerns me, or something that maybe people don't think about. Let's just say again the situation was 100% legit. It was recorded, which means somebody out there, instead of being concerned for the well-being of the person, instead of maybe stepping in to do what's right to save a life, they decided it was better to film it and make sure the world got to see it. Now, there are videos that are out there, and I'm not going to tell anybody how to find them. You could find them yourself if you want, where they are staging bricks to be placed in these quote-unquote rioting areas. In other words, they were setting up things so people can use them to use as projectiles, possibly. I don't think they were being placed there so somebody could build a brick house for the three little pigs. But they could have. So I find it convenient that they happen to have people setting up this situation where somebody is screaming for their life, and instead of anybody doing anything to save the person or reduce the pressure or do the right thing, they chose to sit there and record it. No other police officer tried to push them out of the way, because you ever notice in any kind of real riot scenario, when people get too close with filming, the cops tend to push them away, and yet they wanted to make sure this whole thing got put on video for the world to see, and majority of people to be angry about, which creates more separation, more hatred, more violence, more laws, more restrictions, more punishment on ourselves. What I want people to do is not do the violent thing. I will always say you cannot change the world by stooping to the level of evil. And now people ask me, and they've been asking me constantly, how do we get out of these scenarios? And I even have videos to talk about it. They've been there for almost 10 years at this point. But people do not want to do it because it requires sacrifice. If you don't like what a company is charging you, you leave them. You don't provide them your money. Same thing with banks, same things with corporations, same things with governments. Now, because they know how to influence people with emotion, they know how to, and pardon the expression, but they know how to sucker people, even very smart people. Because people like CNN, for example, know that they will get ad revenue when you watch their video, and it doesn't matter if you thumbed it up or thumbed it down, if you loved it or hated it, if you went there to leave a nice comment or you went there to leave a nasty comment. They know that what they're doing tricks the majority of people into putting their energy into them, focusing on them, where they could take advantage of you and make money off of you. Let me put it in an example that might make more sense. Let's say you're playing this new game. It's an electronic game. And when you put your hands on the game, it gives you an incredibly painful shock. If you don't want that shock, don't put your hand on the board. In other words, do not play the game. Even if it's the best game, even if it's the only game out there, even if it's something everybody else is playing. If you want change, you can stoop to their level and protest and be violent and rant and rave and make videos and go to CNN, MSNBC, and all the places you don't like and tell them, haha, you suck, and haha, you're stupid, and oh, the world's watching you, and I cannot wait to thumb down the video, giving them your energy, giving them your revenue, or you could stay away. The idea is to stop playing their game because they want you to be violent. They want you to focus more on recording a video than to send out the message. And that's why I put the image that you're seeing now, that these days people are more worried and concerned about taking selfies and making sure they get that viral video so they can make plenty of ad revenue than to actually send the message. And that's why if you've seen my videos, or if you haven't seen them, I recommend it. I do not edit my videos. I do not cut them up so they look perfect. I don't dress up in a suit and tie and make sure I'm shaved properly and my hair is all in the right place, because I want people to see me for me, and the message is more important than me, the individual. Because we are supposed to be humanity. We're supposed to be human. We're supposed to be one. But they get us to separate through color, through sexual preference, through religious practice, or lack thereof, through your monetary status. If you continue to keep being dragged into the same game, it does not matter how smart you are or how awakened you are. And I can understand, because I tell people don't understand, don't stand under their authority, understand because you can seek from within. You have to change your concept of that urge of, oh, I want to go to CNN and I want to type in, oh, I hate you, and thumbs down. Walk away from that, because if it becomes an addiction, and I've seen it, I have quote-unquote haters that have been thumbing down my videos on both my channels for years, and that is their life. That is a very empty life to live, but one that somebody can do. But you end up with a vicious cycle that ends up repeating. Wash, rinse, repeat. And it never changes. So I find it funny that the situation had many people around. So they're trying to make it out. And yes, if that was truly a victim, then that was wrong. That is evil. And the person who did it should be punished. But also, how about the people that stood around and did nothing? And if it was staged, well, it's because people are giving every bit of energy to watch and believe every single thing you're shown. I mean, I'll show you how the world has programmed you to focus and give you the wrong answer regardless of what you say. Take a glass. You ever see the glass is half full or glass is half empty? Did you know that if you say either answer, you're wrong? And I'll explain why. Because if you have a glass that is halfway filled, and I showed you that glass, put it in front of you, and you could do it yourself. Take a glass, fill it halfway, go to your friends or family or co-workers or YouTubers, I don't care, and say, is the glass half full or half empty? What they do is they get you to think either way, because they'll say, well, if you say half empty, that means you're a pessimist, and if you say half full, you're an optimist. Well, guess what? The glass is neither half full or half empty. It is completely full. Because was the question, is the glass half full of water or milk or soda or whatever you put in it? because they get you to focus on what you see, because seeing is believing according to them, and that is why the word lie is straight in the middle of the word believe. Because isn't the glass, let's assume I put water in there, filled it halfway. Well, if I said, is the glass half full or half empty, the real answer is it's completely full. Why? Because half of it has water and half of it has air, which has oxygen molecules, which has dust particles, which has virus or bacteria. It could have microscopic organisms. Just because you cannot see it doesn't mean it's not there. So the whole thing is people with great knowledge who use it for purposes of evil know how to trick people, even the ones with the best of hearts, even the ones who think they're awake and very smart and very wise, because they know that emotion is everything. You want to create your reality, you need energy in motion. Emotion, energy in motion. In other words, what you feel is what you create. Whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. So very evil people know that they can get people to love something or get people to hate something, but they are the ones that got you to do either one. So whether you love what they put out and believe it, or hate what they do and don't believe it, you've focused your energy on what they wanted you to direct it to. So no matter what you do, whether you think this was a hoax, whether you think this was real, whether you think this was 100% the way it was supposed to be, or you think it was 100% lie, either way you are focusing your energy towards them. So you will go and watch all of these negative videos showing you flames and violence and hatred, and you'll click on that video and you'll either say, my prayers go out to the family, or you'll say, I hate this is a lie. But either way, they have gotten your energy to focus on them so they can profit off of you based on your feelings and manipulation. That's why for a while I stopped making videos, because I don't want to watch the news and report on it. You know how many people make lots of money on YouTube basically regurgitating what somebody else said? Do you think if, let's say, they regurgitating something that ultimately becomes fake news, is that going to benefit people or is that going to hurt people? Yet that person will probably have lots of money in their pocket if the video goes viral. Notice not one video on my channel has gone viral. And I don't care, because I don't do it for that. I'm here to speak my truth. Whether you resonate with it or not, I cannot control. But if you want to really change the world, you got to walk away. If you want to get into a fight, you may win or you may lose, but you're in a fight. If you walk away, you don't get hit. You don't potentially get murdered. You don't get damaged. And who cares if somebody calls you a coward or makes fun of you? And I'll give you a prime example. Like I said the other day, I moved back in September of last year from New York, where I thought I would spend the rest of my life. We ended up moving to Florida. And around this area, there are a lot of stray cats. Those of you know, it ended up, one of our cats, Luna, passed away about 3 to 5 days after we moved here. She passed away. But I still have Oregon, and I still have Shy. Shy and Oregon are doing quite well. But there's a lot of stray cats around here. And every day, 3 times a day, I will feed those cats. I buy cat food for the 3 cats we have now, because we have a kitten. Well, he's about 6 months old now. We named him Buddy, who was one of the strays outside, and we took him in. But I feed anywhere from 2 to 6 cats 3 times a day, every day. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just saying it's because I love helping animals. Now, I've become very connected with these cats. They're not even wild cats anymore, even though they are strays. They come up to me all the time. They allow me to pet them. If I walk down the street, they will follow me. It's actually kind of funny. I feel like the Pied Piper only with cats. So at one point, if I walk down the street, at least 4 cats will follow me. And the neighborhood started noticing that. And one day I was just sitting out after feeding them. I was sitting out in the front of my driveway, just hanging out. And the cats were all around me. And one of the, I guess, neighbors walked by. And it's like, "Are you the cat person?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" It's like, "Well, I've heard of, cat ladies, but I've never heard of a cat man." And he kind of almost said it like, like that, the old crazy cat lady or old crazy cat man or something. So in other words, I've been here less than a year, and the neighborhood is already seeing me as that cat person. Now, they could say that's a compliment, because not only do we feed them, because of the fact there's a lot of strays, there's a lot of newborns, and it can create health problems for them and fighting, we've actually spent our own money, even through this situation where I've been out of work since April. And I don't get any of the government assistance, by the way. But my wife and I have spent the money getting some of them spayed and neutered to try and slow down the population. And we didn't mind doing it because no one else would. But even if the people meant it as an insult, it doesn't matter to me. And that's the whole point of this story, is that if calling me, and they didn't say crazy cat person, so I don't know if they meant it as a compliment or they meant it as, oh, look at that crazy guy hanging out with the cats all the time. It doesn't matter to me, because if being a crazy cat person means that I am one of the few people that was willing to spend my own money to buy them cat food so they could survive, we've even taken 1 or 2 of them to the vet because one of them had an eye problem, I'm okay with that. But people are so worried about everybody else's thoughts about them. They worry about their self-image. And they're so worried about being proper and doing what everybody else does. That's the entrapment. Unity is okay if it's by choice, not if you're being manipulated. Because remember, free will means you can do anything or you can do nothing. But that doesn't mean somebody or somebodies cannot manipulate you into doing what they want, even though you feel like you did it by your choice. In other words, going to CNN to show them how much you hate them. Because they make money off of you. And that's why. Why do you think they do what they do so over the top? Do you think they're really that stupid? Or do you think they're doing it because they know they'll already have the people they love, but they can double their audience by getting the people they hate? That's why I always found it funny. My haters on both of my channels, and my other channel is We Love Comics because I've been doing comic videos, is I have some people that will thumb down my videos every single day. There is not a video on either channel that does not have a thumb down. This one will have as many as well. Which means there are people who will spend their days waiting for me to make a video, and especially I find it funny here because I haven't been here in 8 months, and yet they're back right away, which means they subscribe to my channel, both of them, wait for me to do a video, and then thumb it down. But what they don't realize is, when YouTube isn't flagging these videos, it gets ad revenue. So, who is really being hurt? They're spending their time being negative, waiting to do something hateful that actually ends up ultimately benefiting me. Now, in the beginning, when I didn't understand, or like I always say, understand this, I used to get offended. I used to get upset. I used to get defensive. I used to get combative. I shut down both of my channels at one point and had to restart them. Until I learned that nothing can ever bother you unless you choose it to be so. You are Dorothy. You have the power to go home all along. And I got a homework assignment for you. I want you to get Jim Henson's movie, The Labyrinth. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil the end right now. So if you want to watch it and not be spoiled, put it on mute for a few seconds. I'm sure most of you have seen it at this point. But the whole premise of that movie, The Labyrinth, is as a young girl who has to babysit her younger brother who starts crying, and she gets very frustrated and annoyed, and I guess she's kind of into, like ghosts and goblins and princess kind of stuff. And she makes this wish for the Goblin King to take her, her baby brother away. And it ends up ultimately, her wish came true. She created this Goblin King who took the baby away. Of course, afterwards, she regrets her decision. And she has to find the baby. And she has 13 hours or so to do so. And she has to go through the Goblin King's labyrinth. And if she makes it there in time, she will be granted the baby back. Long story short, most movies, when you defeat the enemy, what do? You shoot them, you blow them up, you arrest them and put them in jail. In other words, you're stooping to their level. If you shoot a murderer and you kill them, you are now a murderer. If you imprison somebody, you've taken somebody else's freedom away that may have taken somebody else's. In other words, you're stooping to their level, even if you don't see it that way, even if it's not as bad. Because if somebody murders and you beat up that person, you may not have done as bad, but you didn't do anything good. So, to go back to the movie, how did she end up defeating the villain at the end? Technically, she didn't defeat him. But what she did was she turned around, she looked him in the eyes, and said, "You no longer have any power over me." It didn't murder him. She didn't shoot him. She didn't push him off a cliff. He didn't commit suicide. He didn't have an accidental death. He was allowed to live forever. But not having the power over her because she no longer allowed it. So that is the truth that most people will never understand, because ego will say, I need revenge, I need justification, I need smiting, I need punishment, I need to know that somebody that did wrong will make me feel better by knowing they got wrong themselves. Well, how are you any better if you think violence is the right answer to violence? Think of it from a pure heart. Because let's go to religious people. Okay? Let's assume you're extremely religious. The story of Jesus. How does he ultimately end his life? Does he go down in a blaze of glory? Does he wish revenge? Remember when he had a thorn crown placed on his head? And he was whipped and beaten and made to drag his own cross down the road while everybody mocked him and threw things at him and cursed him. And then they proceed to nail him through his hands and feet through a cross, stab him with a spear, and leave him to die and starve to death and bleed to death. Did he say, I wish for revenge? Did he say, curse you all? What did he say? Forgive them, O Lord, for they know not what they do. And yet you'll see even the most religious diehard people saying, God will smite you, God will punish you, and if you don't believe in God, they will revenge and you will be punished through all damnation, through eternal hell. Well, if that's true, then why did God's only Son, when he was betrayed by his follower for money, who was beaten, humiliated, stabbed, and murdered, had no hatred in his heart and actually asked for forgiveness? So to anyone out there who claims to be religious, who threatens people or judges people and says you will be punished, you may believe in God, but you do not follow God's teaching. And that is the ego. And that is the control mechanism for everyone. So if you want to truly get out of the system of control, listen to your heart. Stop letting people drag you into conversations that make your ego feel better. Because if somebody got murdered, that is horrible. I absolutely agree. My father died in a fire. He didn't get murdered, but, well, he got murdered by fire, but he died. So I understand loss. But even if a person that did the murder gets the death penalty, it may make somebody feel better, but it doesn't relieve the loss of your loved one. That doesn't change it. So is that really love in your heart, or is that satisfaction for revenge? And if that's true, is that love? So you can go back into your justifications, and I'm not going to specifically pick anybody out. I see the scrolling things, and people can believe anything they want and continue the vicious cycle over again for decades and millenniums. Or they can finally understand that if you want true change, you first have to change yourself. And if you have revenge in your heart, well, you're going to create a world where there's plenty of things that will require revenge. If you truly want to seek peace, you have to give, and you will get what you receive, get what you give. So if you glorify in the justification of others being punished for something they did wrong, well, guess what? You're creating the world that will always have that scenario that you will play out for all eternity. Once you change your heart, the world changes around you. See, here's the thing. People spend their whole lives trying to change the world and not realizing the world is just a reflection of you. So if you see nothing but violence and hatred and revenge, that's because that's what's truly in your heart. Whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. Because if your world is full of hatred, that can't be from a loving God. But if you are given free will to create whatever you want based on your heart and your belief, well, if you keep trying to change the outside world, you never change yourself, nothing changes. And this is what I want you to do to prove my point. I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to give your mirror not the thumbs up, but a different finger. So the reflection is pointing back at you. Now, you're looking at your reflection, and your middle finger is being stuck up. So your reflection is giving you the finger. Now, you can yell at it. You can scream at it. You can try and bribe it. You can try and convince it to put its finger down. You may not like what you're seeing. You may even hit the mirror. You could get so mad at that reflection giving you the finger that you punch the mirror. Now, let me ask you something. When you punch the mirror, do you do anything to the reflection at all? Do you hurt it? Or do you hurt yourself? If you don't want the reflection to give you the finger, you have to put your finger down. So the biggest trick that the Illuminati and all of these other higher sources are well aware of is you create your own world, and it is a mirror reflection of your heart. So if you have revenge and hatred in your heart, you are creating a reality that has reasons for your revenge and your hatred. You want to change the world, you got to change your heart. Punching your reflection does nothing but hurt yourself. So if you want your reflection to not give you the middle finger, don't put your finger up. You are getting what you are giving, even if it's just in your mind and in your heart. So if you sit there and say, well, somebody murdered somebody, so there has to be justification, so it never happens again. Well, if that's true, why is there still crime? Why can't they even stop crime in jail? And if there is an infinite universe, and you live forever because you are a light being, you are made of particles of energy, and you are created by God, and you will live forever, whatever God may be, then death really isn't the answer. That's like taking somebody's car and destroying it. Well, you can buy another car because you're not the car. Car is just a vehicle to get you around. Just like a submarine will get you into a world that you cannot normally survive in. Well, if your soul is made of ether, and it is eternal, and you come to a three-dimensional plane so you can experience physicality, your body is just a suit to hold your soul like a submarine would hold your body. You destroy the submarine, you get a new one. So the world here in a three-dimensional plane is here to make you experience what a hug feels like, to hold a loved one, to learn loss by losing a loved one. Whatever you want to create. Think of it like the Sims or some other video game where you can create things. What you feel in your heart is the reflection of your world, which means the rest of the world can be burning and you will have nothing but marshmallows to roast. In other words, some people will burn, others will use it for warmth. And I highly agree. One of the people says the government is corrupt. Well, if you're not taking part in what they are being corruptive in, it doesn't affect you. If you're in a war, whether you are scared to death to be in that war or whether you go in with guns a-blazing, you have a higher chance of getting shot than if I am swimming in the ocean with the dolphins. Doesn't mean I can't get shot, but it's highly unlikely and less chance of it happening. If you're afraid of being eaten by sharks, well, which place would put you in more risk? Walking on the beach? Being in a plane? Sitting in your house? Or swimming in the middle of the ocean? So if you don't want to be eaten by a shark, don't swim in the ocean. Now, that doesn't mean if you swim in the ocean, you're going to be eaten by a shark, but it does increase your chances. So in other words, what I'm trying to instill in those willing to listen, and I know 99.9% of the people listening to this, even those that are awake, are so connected with their emotions and being manipulated so much that they cannot get rid of revenge in their heart. So if you are a religious person and you feel there is justification for somebody doing something wrong by you punishing them or somebody else punishing them, because that makes it easier in somebody's consciousness when somebody else does the dirty work. Because those other police officers that were sitting around while that one police officer was doing what he was doing, they can say, well, I didn't do anything. I wasn't a part of it. And yet they were. Why? Because they didn't do anything to try and stop it. And Evenstar, and here's my point. I'm going to point Evenstar out. He points out this guy is talking some high-level Christian nonsense. Okay, so let me ask you, Evan. If you believe what I'm saying is nonsense, and you have every right to believe that if you want, you're spending your time and your energy with me instead of using your energy for something positive that would make you happy. So who do you think is getting hurt more by your words? Me, who could care less about what your opinion is? Or you, who is spending your time and energy with negativity? So thank you as always. And this is why I love these trolls now. I used to hate them. I used to want to avoid them. But now I love using them as an example of how easy it is to show, like they say, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks onto you. And by the way, so much for me saying that I was going to make a short video. You guys should know me by now, even if you haven't heard me in a while. So my point is, that individual thinks he's trolling me, and others may get offended. Now, how do you avoid that? By ignoring them. Now, people may be trying to defend me, or people may be fighting back, But you see how easily your energy is now being given to someone else, which is the whole purpose of what a troll tries to do. It's because they need and seek attention. And it's like a crying baby. A crying baby will cry because it knows if it cries, it will get what it wants. And Evans, I'm glad you're not offended, and that's great. But my whole point is, you can insult me all you want. You could say everything I say is gibberish. But if you are watching something you don't like, that seems to be a waste of time, don't you think? And that's my point, and thank you for proving it. Notice how I'm not offended. I used to be, but sometimes you have to have the world drop on you to realize how strong you are if you want to use your strength to lift up the world. So, again, and this is if, because you have the freedom. Free will gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. You can spend your time and your energy being on this plane to experience negativity if you want. Yes, we live forever, but our bodies don't. This suit will rot away and die. Our soul continues on, but this body will die, which means you have a limited time here. If you want to spend your limited time experiencing this three-dimensional realm, causing hatred, seeking revenge, having violence, being negative, that's your choice. But don't complain at the end when you look back and your life was nowhere near fulfilled as you wanted it to be, because what did you do? You spent your time, and I'm not saying you as in you, Evan Starr, I'm saying you as in everyone in general. The point is, you have a limited time here, so why not use it for something that will excite you, something that will bring you joy? So the idea is, I had the conversation with that individual, and I will no longer continue to have that conversation regardless of what they say, because I need to show as an example that once you interact with somebody and you realize, because you need real eyes to realize, that that individual is trying to get your attention in a negative way, the only way they succeed is if you continue the conversation, even if you're trying to insult them or make fun of them or try and even educate them. The world is a reflection. You have been given the gift of creation. You can create your reality. You are so powerful that you can not think you create your reality, which creates the truth that you do not have the power. That's how ironically powerful you are. The world is a reflection of you. So when you flip the finger to your reflection and the reflection flips the finger back, you can get as mad as you want and seek revenge and want to hurt that reflection. The only person you hurt is yourself. If you want to keep experiencing that, by all means, you have the right to do that, because everybody comes here to learn something. You will never grow if you stay in the same spot. And that doesn't mean physically, that also means mentally. So the next time a religious person condemns you and says God will punish you, think to yourself, is that person following the word of who he supposedly or she supposedly is worshiping? Or is it the do as I say, not as I do? Because the prime example, whether Jesus was a fictional story or a real situation, does not matter. It's irrelevant. It's the message that's important. That even though that individual was betrayed, beaten, insulted, murdered, and people sat there crying, but they didn't take him down. Anybody ever realize that? Like, for example, Mary was kneeling by his side and all of his followers were kneeling there crying. How many of them tried to take him off the cross? In today's world, they would have had video cameras and they would have filmed it, saying, oh, look at this horrible situation, instead of doing anything to change it. Because if a person's drowning, you could be somebody who tries to save the person. Some people may not know how to swim. Some people may be afraid they'll drown. But if you're sitting there with a camera filming it, yeah, you might get a viral video, but you, because of your inaction, allowed that individual to perish. And here's another way you get rid of people, because when you have to understand that sometimes you got to take out the trash, and that's okay. So there are going to be people in this world that will spend their energy and their time telling you how to live, how to feel. They're going to be combative. They're going to be abusive. They're going to be all about, like it says, be all about me, 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 me. If you continue to engage with those people, it's like I said yesterday, when you argue with a fool, the only thing you will learn is there are two fools in the conversation. And whatever truth you feel in your heart will be your reality. And that's why I said the whole roller coaster analogy yesterday, where two truths can happen at the same time and still be both right. Because if you and your friend are on a roller coaster, experiencing the same exact ride at the same exact time, one of you can be scared and sick, and another person could be having the most joyous, happiest time in their life. Neither one is wrong. They're both right. It's just the experience based on your own perception. So the reality was the same for both individuals, and yet they experienced the reality different, but they were both right because it was their version of their reality that they were experiencing. That is the whole purpose of life, is experiencing your part of reality through your eyes. And you will create your own reality for the universe to experience it through you. Here's the funny part. You're not obligated to stick with any agenda. You can change it at any point. It's like being in a car. You can stop. You can go a different direction. You can drive wherever you want. But if you drive off a cliff, you're going to be damaged. You may even die. So drive wisely. So if you want to continue to make your point across to people who are not going to have your same reality perception, you will spend your whole life trying to convince others of your way instead of spending your way to the best of your ability. So who did it really hurt? That individual is going to go from channel to channel, and they are going to try and convince the world of them being right. Some will listen, some will not. Some will combat them, some will try and change them, and it is a continuing cycle for all eternity. If that's the kind of life you want to lead, then by all means do it. But here's the funny thing, you can change it at any time. Like they say in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, you had the power to go home all along. But if they would have told Dorothy that in the beginning of the story, she would not have believed it. So what did she have to do? She had to travel along the yellow brick road, in other words, travel along life's highway, experiencing the scarecrow, who was brains, in other words, she had to think. The Tin Man, who was the heart, so she had to have love and feeling. And the lion, she had to learn courage, so she needed the brains to research, the heart to feel the emotion, and the courage to rescind the fear. And then she would able to be accepting what she had all along, which was the power to go home. So in this realm, in this universe, in this section of an infinite reality, you create your own world based on your reflection. You want to not believe in aliens? What's going to happen? You're going to find videos and books and people who will gravitate towards you and say the same thing. They don't exist. If you believe in aliens, the same thing is going to happen. You're going to end up associating with people who believe in them, who have seen them. You'll find pictures and videos, and people will look at the same video, and one will say, that's Photoshop, that's fake, and one will say that's 100% real. Well, how can they both be right? Maybe it's because it's their own perception. And there are plenty of people that will manipulate you. If you want to change the world, then I would suggest not to do it. Now, I can't tell you what to do, and I never will tell you what to do. I can give my opinion because that's my reality that I'm sharing with you. Like, if I built an amusement park, I could advertise all I want, but if you hate amusement parks, it doesn't matter how much I advertise, you're not going to go. And some people I won't even have to advertise. They'll see the amusement park getting built and being excited for the day it opens. And some will just come out of curiosity. So that's the thing. Build your amusement park, but don't force people to come in. And don't expect everybody to want to be there, and don't expect everybody that visits your park to have a great time. Some may be injured, some may be suing you, some will never come back, and some will have a time of a life. No matter what you do, you cannot change the world, because if you're trying to change the world, you're trying to change your reflection in the mirror instead of realizing that you created that reflection. So if you want to change the image you see, you have to change yourself. Again, punching the mirror because you're mad at the reflection giving you the middle finger hurts you because you were the one given the finger. There is no outside world. It is all inside. And this is not some crazy conspiracy theory talk. You can investigate it from pure science level. This is not something new. It is something not taught. And there's a reason for that. You cannot control the awakened. A magic trick is not very magical when you know the rabbit's inside the hat the whole time and there are two women in the saw the lady in half trick. So once you know the trick, it no longer dazzles you. It no longer amazes you. It no longer surprises you. In other words, knowledge is power. So if you want to continue to be manipulated and you think because you have free will that what you're doing is right, even though it's not really making you happy, change it or keep doing it. Because like they say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That individual kept trying to say the same thing over and over again, and yet if I'm not going to believe in his reality, or hers, I don't want to assume, nothing that person says is going to change my mind. And if a person is going to be nothing but combative, that's not somebody I wish to associate with. A couple years ago, I would have fought back and forth. I would have gotten angry, or I would have tried to convince the person. Now I just wish them well and know that I will never see that person again for the rest of my life. So who are they affecting? So if you want to be in a world of me, and you want to send an image of who you don't want to be, by all means, continue to do what you're doing. Because if you think it's righteous and you think it's right, and it's not really making you happy, because I promise you, no one is going to CNN to say they hate them, saying, wow, that was such a great time. I felt so wonderful. You might feel good and a little satisfaction and say, oh, I showed them. I thumbed them down. You think they care when they're counting your money that you gave them? You want to shut down the world that's causing the evil? You don't give them your energy. You don't give them your money. Because remember, money is energy because you have to work to get your money, right? Well, not these days. Now people just get it handed to them. I don't get any of that, nor do I really want it, to be perfectly honest. And I haven't been... I haven't had a job now for 2.5 months because of this shutdown. But yet I still found a way to survive. There's always ways. If you think there's only one way, then I hope you change your mindset. In an infinite world, you can go in infinite ways, but there are always consequences for the direction you go. But you can always stop. You can always turn around. Sometimes you can even ask for directions. But don't spend your whole life giving yourself the finger and looking at your mirror reflection, giving you that finger, and getting mad at the reflection. The reflection is you. You want to make your reflection smile? In other words, you want your world to be happy? You got to be happy first. And you can't pretend to be happy. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Everything's great. You can't lie to your heart. Your heart is truth. It's the truth. That's why when you put your passion into something, they say, what do they say? They say put your heart into it. So that is the end of this story. I hope you appreciate it. If you only listen to a little bit of it, I hope you will go back and listen to the beginning. Maybe it will help you. Again, I can only share my position of my thought process. Whether it resonates with you or not is up to you. You could take one thing out of it. You could take all of it out of it. You could take nothing out of it. Does not change me. So if you want to focus on the negativity in the world, don't be surprised the world is negative. You ever wonder why this world is full of carnivores and creatures that want to consume one another? It's a reflection of how we interact in this plane. We don't have to, but what a surprise, the whole world is violent. And yet we want violence. We want to have satisfaction of knowing that somebody did something wrong and they need to be punished. Well, two wrongs do not make a right, even if it makes you feel better. And until we can get past that, the world will never change, because you're mad at your finger being stuck up at you in the reflection, and you want to hurt it. And you're only hurting yourself. So if you're a religious person and you believe in God, and you want punishment for others, then you are not following what you're being taught. Because, again, with the whole Jesus scenario, he would have been pretty justified to want to seek revenge, cursing them out. But yet he allowed it to happen. He knew it was going to happen. He knew it was his destiny to be betrayed. So it wasn't even a shock to him. And it came true. He didn't beg for anybody to take him down. He was there for 3 days. He didn't beg for anybody to rescue him. He didn't try and escape. He didn't curse them all. He didn't wish them death. He didn't say, I'll be back to murder you all. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And many people do not know what they're doing. So you cannot practice something you truly do not feel in your heart. Because if you're an incredibly religious person and you do not forgive like the Son of the Creator did, then you are not following the message. You're letting your ego, which means there's other gods in the world. Some of them have egos that want to be God, who pretend to be God. So be careful who you follow. You might not be following who you think. Because like it says, by their deeds you shall know them. So if you have a god or gods that make you get down on your knees and pray and worship them and seek revenge, then is that a loving God? Because a loving God will love you regardless of what you do. And to all those who don't believe in aliens, I want you to ponder this. Any god throughout history of civilization, gods or gods, whether it was Greek gods, Roman gods, any gods, are they of this earth? They're always portrayed where? In the heavens. In other words, in the sky. Well, if you live on earth, terra, it is terrestrial. That's why they call it a territory. But if you are not from this planet, you are extraterrestrial. So all gods are technically aliens because they're not of this earth. They're of a different realm. Funny when you get it when explained that way. So continue to believe what you want. But if you spend your whole life believing and you never truly change anything in your life and what you believe does not make you happy, maybe it's time to question it or see it in a different light. Because if you truly believe in Jesus, for example, then you should follow his example, not create your own. Because it doesn't teach revenge. When Jesus came back, and again, I'm not saying it's true, it could be a story, or it could be true, it doesn't matter. But when he came back, he didn't come back with a gun. He didn't come back with a knife. He didn't strangle people. He didn't use his gift and his power to hurt. What did he do? He always helped people, even the ones he knew who would ultimately betray him. Oh, sorry about being too close to the mic. It's the Italian in me. So thank you for pointing that out. See? And there's another one. So I'm going to give a shout out right now to Brother John. He didn't have to say, "Oh, idiot, shut the microphone. You're too loud," or being obnoxious. He just said something politely. Says, "Hey, bar none, long time. You're too close to the mic." There you go. So now I back away from the mic, and things are better. See how you can talk to people and communicate with people without having to cause pain to somebody else? Because remember, let's assume somebody murdered somebody. Okay? They catch that person and they murder them. There are many people that are going to be very happy about that, right? What about their family? What about that person's mother? You think she's going to be happy? Think she's going to be feeling love? So people don't understand that what you do has consequences beyond that moment. So that you may feel justified that the murderer who murdered somebody you love is now dead, but now you've caused pain to so many others that have their loss. But people don't like to think beyond that. They just want the ego, the selfish part of them, and says, "I feel justified. I don't care what happens." It's like throwing garbage out of your car, out of sight, out of mind. But yet if everybody did it, we'd pollute the planet and we'd all die. You cut down all the trees, guess what? There's no more oxygen, we all die. There are consequences even if they are not immediate, and even if it's something you don't notice. Think beyond yourself. If we are truly one, then you must think beyond yourself if you wish to grow. So I've given people plenty of things to think about. And again, there's a person that's writing some comments, and I'm not giving them the energy to point them out. Think any way you want. If you want to keep thinking the way you do, you're going to have the world created in the way that you don't want. If that's your idea of happiness and how you want to spend your limited time on this planet, by all means, please do. And with that, I'm going to ask you all, if you can, to thumb this up. I'm going to ask you all, if you can, to share it. And to those who do, I thank you. And those that don't, I thank you anyway for listening to what I had to say, whether you believed in any of it, whether you loved any of it, or whether you absolutely hated it and thought it was the most ridiculous thing. But if you're one of those people that hated it and thought this was the most ridiculous thing, my question is, why are you spending your energy here where it's somewhere you don't want to really be? Unless there's another reason that you're just not saying. Not the way I want to live, but hey, you have that right. So thanks for listening. I hope you had a great day. I thank you so much for listening to this video, and I will see you guys next time I make one. Have a great day, and if you appreciated anything I did, leave it in the comments. I would love to hear it. Have a great day.